Welcome everyone. Thanks so much for attending this session. I am Becky Francis, Chief Executive of the Education Endowment Foundation, and this panel develops from the webinar on remote learning hosted by the DfE last Wednesday on the 27th of January. If your colleagues remain interested to watch, you can still find the link at the Get Help from Remote Education pages on the Gov UK website. Now, clearly, there's been an enormous appetite with an audience of over 2,500 having watched on the day or since. And at that seminar, we invited the audience to send questions. And there were some brilliant questions that some of you attending here today have raised, particularly around pupil assessment, learning recovery, and how devices can be effectively used, acknowledging how difficult it is for many families with more than one child sharing devices, and so on. And so we've picked out a selection of those questions that best represent those key themes. And the panel are really looking forward to discussing these questions in a moment. But before I introduce our panel, I just wanted to acknowledge that the last 9 months will be known forever as one of the most challenging periods that our education sector has ever faced. And the really Herculean efforts of the whole school community that have been made to respond to the crisis are absolutely tremendous. And it's hugely impressive to see how teachers have adapted to the changing landscape to provide remote education so quickly. And one question on my mind, as I'm sure it is for many of you attending today, is what will all of this look and feel like when the challenges of the pandemic are behind us? Will the marked impact that technology's had on so many schools be here to stay? And how can we ensure that that develops in an evidence-informed way that supports all pupils? I'm just going to take us through a very brief introduction to our speakers before we turn to your questions. So first of all, we have Sally Lanny, who is Executive Head Teacher at Feasey Park Farm and Early Years Centre. And Feasey Park Farm Primary School is a very large primary school in Walsall with an attached early years and daycare centre. And the school really pride themselves on promoting innovation and creativity and preparing pupils for success in a technological world. And the school's a smart showcase school and one of only 2 accredited smart training schools in the UK. Do you want to give a wave, Sally?
Hello.
Thank you. Then we have Sarah Dawkins, who's head teacher at Danesfield Primary School, Buckinghamshire. And Danesfield are one of only 6 Microsoft training academies in the country. And in 2019 was selected as an EdTech 50 school, highlighting Danesfield as one of the top 50 in the country for the use of technology in education. Going to give a wave, Sarah?
Hey.
Thank you. Then we have Mark Allday, who's senior leader at Sandringham School. And Sandringham School is a comprehensive secondary school based in St Albans and an Education Endowment Foundation research school. They deliver evidence-informed training in digital provision. Mark.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you. And then Neil Beck, Assistant Technologist at National Star College. National Star is a college that's provided support through assistive technology regionally, nationally, and internationally. And they've supported schools and colleges through the demonstrator programme. And in recent years, they've seconded Neil to provide a national programme of support. Neil, give everyone a wave.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you. And then we have Chris Atkinson, who's Deputy Head at Totley Primary School, Sheffield. And Totley Primary School have made an incredibly impressive journey over the last 9 months, really engaging very swiftly with remote education support and the digital tech to do that. Following support from Outward EdTech demonstrator, the school have embedded Google Classroom, access training on how technology can be used to support remote education arrangements, and regularly use OAK resources and materials. And then finally, we have Jonathan Dando, who is Director of External Relations at OAK National Academy. And Jonathan's on secondment from a role as Communications and Marketing Director at Teach First. Thanks for joining us, Jonathan.
Hello, everyone.
So, what a panel. Brilliant to have sector experts and that direct experience from schools as well. And I'm going to open now with the first question, and we'll turn to Sarah from Danesfield Primary School, one of the DfE's EdTech demonstrator schools, as I've said. We have a question from the head teacher of an infant school in Surrey, who says, we're not part of an academy or trust, so we're rather alone. We're meeting all the requirements of remote learning, and for the most part, parents and children are engaged and supportive. However, how do I know that we're doing enough, as one of your speakers said, to avoid the need for an intensive catch-up curriculum? Sarah.
Thank you, Becky. I would think the first question to ask yourself beyond like the curriculum and gaining new knowledge is, how do you know that when the children return, they're going to be mentally fit and still have that love of learning? And so to think about that when you're coming back. But while you're with your remote teaching, how do you know that it's stimulating? How do you know that the children are engaging with it? And how do you kind of have that evidence? Are you asking for feedback from your parents? And how do you know your wider community and all your stakeholders are involved within the remote education? I think from our point of view, after lockdown 1, we had a transition curriculum in place where we were able to identify any potential gaps that had taken place. And one of the key things that we could see was that, for example, children's engagement in writing had dropped.